Steve Piter and I are college buddies that met over at Vandercook College of Music, and we happen today to be band directors, and we also happen, conveniently, to be in our first year, again, at a new position this year. Steve just started over at Lake Park High School, which is his alma mater. I just took a position over at Naperville North High School after 5 years at Morris Community High School, Steve previously being at Plainfield North High School. Steve and I have had this huge affinity for the band. We love the band. We love the music. We love the programs. We love the fascination that we have with band directors. We had the opportunity to sit down with Greg Bimm, the director of bands at Marian Catholic High School. And this was such a phenomenal conversation with Greg. I took a lot from this, and I was especially just excited to hear about his integrity to the students and to the music. I really was affected hearing about Greg's upbringing and how his father and his teachers played just such an integral role in his musical and life development overall.
Yeah, I affectionately refer to myself as a band geek. I think Don would do the same. Don's a grad of Joliet Central High School, student of Ted Liga, and that program has a tremendous amount of history. The band program in the school, I think, being over 100 years old. 100
years, 1911, 1912 when it started.
Yeah, and Lake Park has a good amount of history as well. We're both just really fascinated with that kind of historical aspect of things. So I thought it was pretty fitting to sit down with somebody who has been doing his job longer than either of us has been alive. I was born in 1982, and Greg started as the band director at Marian in 1977 and has just been a leader in this field for as long as I've been involved in it. So the opportunity to sit down and pick his brain was just a really cool one that we couldn't pass up.
Well, we now sit down with Greg Bimm, Director of Bands from Marian Catholic High School, in this first episode of Bandmasters.
I looked at myself, and when I've been here 38 years, and what that means is, to the freshmen in high school, as a comparison, and I just went through this. I have to do the math real quick in my mind again. If my band director had been at LP as long before I got there as I have been before the freshmen get here, the numbers would be something really strange. Like I was a freshman in high school in 1965, the fall of '65. So if you take 38 years from that, it gets down to what 27?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's like before the Great Depression, Al Capone was still running things in Chicago. So for me, the 38 years, it's gone really fast. I mean, it doesn't feel like anything to me. I'll talk about something that happened in 1982, and for me, it's like it's a real memory. It's visceral. I can still see the face of the person who was laughing or whatever was going on. But for those guys, it's like if I went to high school and my freshman year, a teacher was talking about knowing Al Capone, it's kind of like,
right.
Al Capone, like I saw him on the Untouchables, with Robert Stack and all that stuff. So, yeah, the time frame is bizarre. I think I know that it exists, but I don't think I have a handle on it at all. I just, I'm sold.
I used to live around the corner from the Green Mill in Chicago, where Al Capone made a regular hangout there. You could go and sit in his booth and all that.
We had a house down here in the Heights.
Yeah, but it was. I don't know if you ever came to that place or not, Steve. But
Green Mill, no.
Yeah, big jazz performers in the evening. But you would see the bartender would disappear, and there was the underground tunnels were that's where they would store all that stuff. So
wasn't it Chris Farley who did that?
we were just referencing that on the way here.
Mr. Bimm, do you remember when you were with the Marian Catholic Marching Band?
Stupid. That's hilarious.
Well, I'm sitting here with my buddy Steve Piter. My name's Don Stinson, and Steve and I have been friends for almost a decade here, and we're in our 8th year of teaching, and We've got a little bit of experience under our belt, but we are also just, of course, trying to get some unofficial professional development down here as well. And I think the big thing, Steve, is we're both giant fans of not only the band, but band directors and band history. So we decided to start a little bit of a podcast here and kind of get to talk to some of these people that we really look up to and we can really learn a lot from here.
Yeah, I think for me, this is, we both have started, Don and I both started new jobs this year. We're starting year 8 of teaching, and we've both started new jobs this year. For him, over at Naperville North, new position. For me at Lake Park, it's my alma mater, and obviously the Marian Band and the Lake Park Band have a lot of history together. And for me, you have been, and this is a little bit of a fangirl moment for me, but you've been such an influence, on my teaching and my bands that I really wanted to just have a chance to sit down and talk with you and pick your brain and have this, for our records, but hopefully for some other people who are maybe around our age, at approaching the 10-year mark and starting to go, okay, I realize I know a lot less than I thought I did.
We all do.
Or, are moving into a new position or trying to take their band to the next level to say, okay, I imagine you probably had a lot of these same thoughts, struggles that we've had and been through a lot of them and learned from them. So, one quick thought for you. Obviously, Ken Snook at Lake Park, you spent a lot of years working together, seeing each other at shows, that kind of thing. Ted Liga at Joliet, which is where Don graduated from. What kind of feeling, if any, do you have having seen now, I think in the time you've been at Marian, I'm the 4th director at Lake Park. What is that like for you?
It's frightening. It's just time passing. Where there's I think there's some song like that, I think. But that's what it is. It's exciting because I see new people who are just totally stoked about teaching, but it's also like there was a time when I was the youngest guy. When I first came here and we started to go out and compete, I was like a baby. I mean, like it would have been probably 1980, so I was 29. And, very much I'd just walk in and was in awe of people who had been around the thing, stuff before me, like Al Castronova and over at Chesterton and things. And I have gone from that to, and I don't know whether I got any better, but I'm the old lion with the very long teeth because I've been around I'm the old dog now. So, but in one case it's a great thing for me because I've gotten to work alongside of Ken Snook and Ted Liga, and you can't be in the company of those kind of people without learning, without saying, "Oh, I can do it that way, and I'll be that much better." And so I have stolen from both of them. Now I watch for young guys who have new ideas, and I steal from them. So.
Well, do this for us. Can you take us back to the beginning? So before Marian, before ISU, before LaSalle, Peru High School, what starts the musical spark in Greg Bimm?
5th grade is when everybody started in band in LaSalle, Peru. I was in Peru, Illinois at Washington Grade School. The real truth is it probably started before that, but it was preordained that I was going to be a trumpet player. If you look, there's a wall that I'm pointing to. If you see that black and white thing right in the center, looks like a real old picture. Uh-huh. My grandfather is holding a valve trombone in the Wynette Town Band in that picture. He's a trumpet player. And right above that, in the hand colored, like that oil colored old black and white, that's my dad at that time it was the Kiwani Knights Drum and Bugle Corps when he was about 16. And so, I'm the third in the line of trumpet players. My son played the trumpet, and my nephew, Ron Glenn, is a wonderful trumpet player. He works at Schilke now and still plays. And, so trumpets have floated through our band or through our family for all these times. Is there a picture? No, I don't think it's up there. We have a picture of a bunch of, oh, there it is. Yeah, down at the bottom. That's my dad and me, Ron, and my son, Jeff. And actually, Ron's brother-in-law, we had this tradition on New Year's Eve that right at the stroke of midnight, we'd all run outside and we'd play taps for the outgoing year and charge for the new year. And so that was January 1 of some year, quite a long time ago, from the looks of it. My son is considerably older than, he had to be about in 5th grade there. So anyway, it started there, and inspiration was pretty quick from a couple of different points. My first teacher was a guy named Larry Katz. And he was, I think he was small. He was big to me because I was in 5th grade, but he was intense, very intense, not mean, but very inspirational. He's one of those, a lot of 5th graders look up to their teachers, but I idolized the guy. I thought he was just the best, and he liked me because I practiced. My dad was the second part of this. From the time I started in 5th grade, I practiced an hour and a half a day. That was the rule. If you're going to do this,
most 5th graders,
right? You're going to practice an hour and a half a day. And so, and this is funny because there are two stories with the first week of practice. Mr. Katz gave me an exercise that you just play whatever note comes out of your horn, with no valves. Then you push the first valve down, then you push the second valve down, then you push the third valve down, and then just repeat da 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 da. So for an hour and a half a day, that got old. My dad actually taught me like a C scale or something like that the first week. But so that's part of the story. So
you wanted to practice?
At that point, I certainly did. And then going through grade school, there were still times when Dad. Well, I'll get to that in a second because that's I guess the third part of the story. But
my mom had to set an alarm for me. She said because my band director at Hufford was a guy named Wesley Russell.
I knew Wes when he was in high school. I student taught at his high school.
Oh, really?
Small world.
But he said we had to practice a half-hour a day, and my mom would sit me down with an egg timer or something, whatever it was, and put 40 minutes on there, and I'd say, well, I'm only supposed to practice a half hour, and she'd say, you're going to screw around for 10 minutes. You're sitting there. So for me...
Good band mom.
Yeah.
But I went in the first week, and we had practice reports, and my mom had signed the practice report and written 1.5 on every day. Mr. Katz looked at it, and he looked down at me and said, Greg, 1.5 minutes practice a day is not going to be enough. And I said, oh, no, that's an hour and a half. And he just smiled. It's like, I'm going to like you. The big thing about the practice time, though, was my dad. He worked an insane amount of hours as a TV repairman. Back in those days, TV repairmen made house calls. TV goes down, you call the shop sends my dad out with a big box of tubes and all kinds of stuff. He'd go in and fix things. And he worked from 9 to 9 on Monday, 9 to 9 on Tuesday, 9 to 6 on Wednesday, 9 to 9 on Thursday, 9 to 9 on Friday, 9 to 6 on Saturday. And Sunday was the only day he had off. He had a half an hour to come home for dinner each of those days. So he worked till 9. It was like at 4:30. And so he would eat, and I'd practice next to him for a half an hour. Then he'd go back to work, and when he came home at 9, we'd practice for an hour. So my hour and a half was pretty much always with my dad, and it was around his work. And I think about it now, and if you think about that, think about a guy who works 12 hours from 9 to 9, then goes home, and the one thing that he does is practices an hour with his grade school son.
I'm such a terrible father now. I got 3 kids.
Yeah, me too.
I go home and
I could not meet
the babysitter on, which is Netflix.
I couldn't meet the standard my dad set for sure.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So obviously that was the start for you playing trumpet. When did you decide? What made you decide that this
right
was
away.
What you wanted to do? Band directing.
5th grade. I honestly, I love being here. I love doing this. This is what I want.
Did you ever have a moment, high school, college, or even once you started teaching, where you went, I don't know.
For about a week in high school, which is the second part of the inspiration. I went to South Peru Township High School, which has a heritage not as long as Joliet's, but the same kind of thing during those years when Chris Izzo was there and Mel Pontius. And I was the beneficiary of some of those years, and they were incredibly inspirational. There was one week where I'd gotten mad at Mr. Iser for something, and I don't know what it's long gone now. During that week, I was thinking about what it would be like to be a math teacher, because I always liked math, but that went away quickly, and band directing came back. And I never went away from that in college or anything like that. That's probably the one thing that helped me to get through college, because back in those days, it was pretty loose times.
It's the professional way we'll put that. Okay.
My buddy Kyle's the band director at LaSalle High School now.
It is going to be. He has asked me to conduct the band at IMEA.
Okay.
And because they're playing at Allstate this year,
Yep.
and I'm just completely stoked. It's just wonderful.
Kyle's funny because he'll talk about every day before rehearsal when he gets there. They list the Sousa Award winners there, and one of them is Greg Bimm. And he said you kind of have to do a good job when you got that name just staring at you in the room there. So
Yeah.
So
I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be good.
talk to us a little bit about your early years here at Marian. What were some of the biggest struggles you faced, and suggestions for people who are maybe just starting out in a new position or in their careers? Things that you go, all right, you're probably going to have to deal with this.
The band was really small. We probably had 55 in the symphonic band, and then we had a cadet band with maybe 16 or 18, something like that. I do remember that year the cadet band was the freshman band, and I remember that we played for Christmas, but we didn't play the spring or the winter concert. We played in the spring because we couldn't put music together in that amount of time, so I didn't let them play, which probably was a mistake, but But it was a pretty moderate sort of level start. It wasn't going great guns or anything like that, and so that was a bit of an issue. But I have been lucky at so many of the right times along the way. After my first year here, there were 6 periods in the day and no study halls. The study hall didn't exist. After my first year, they put a study hall in, and that allowed for a couple of significant changes. One, kids could come down and practice, and it created an atmosphere where people liked to be here. And probably the bigger one was the school, who's always been supportive, agreed to put the concert band, the cadet band, the second band, in a study hall at the same time as the symphonic band, the top band. So during marching season, they could all be together. So in people's eyes, the band got a little bit bigger overall, but the marching band got significantly bigger. The first year, people are looking at 50 people and like 8 color guard girls. And the next year, they're looking at it was like 90. It just exploded, almost doubled. And so everybody looked at it and said, oh, things are going good here. And so that helped build momentum early on. Probably the biggest thing it wasn't what I faced, it's what who I was at the time, or how underdeveloped I was. I was talking about young guys and watching them and stealing from them. I was nowhere near as well prepared as what everybody is now. It's like I didn't have very many tools at all, and so I fell into basically just being a bull in a china shop. And that can get you a certain distance, but it doesn't. Patience wasn't part of my tool chest at the time. And that would be, if I was going to tell somebody about going into something, is to be patient. Just realize that making things better is going to take some time, and instead of hyper reacting to a situation or a problem, it's better to take a step back and just kind of look at it, because you'll find a better solution a lot of times if you give yourself that time. I know that I would explode either at the kids, at the administration, and then I learned that wasn't the smart way to get things done. It's much smarter to, as far as the administration goes, to just bide your time, and I always call it pick the hill you want to die on. Instead of going in and just throwing the gauntlet the first time something goes wrong. If you throw the gauntlet every time something goes wrong, it means nothing. So if you can just hold back with that makes a big difference. One of the things that used to happen is if we started a rehearsal and somebody was late, I would yell at everybody. And honestly, I don't really care if the kids see me angry at a group, or even if the whole group needs to have yell at. That's a harsh word, but yeah, it's sort of descriptive. But I caught myself doing that one time. I was having a diatribe. I mean, like I was getting after the kids, and I just stopped and went, I'm yelling at the ones who are here, and the ones who are not here, they're not hearing anything I'm saying. What good is this? This is not working. So, that was part of the issue. As far as the building of the program, it sort of caught fire, and our numbers went up huge, by huge increments pretty quickly. From that first year, we went to 90, then 120, 150, 170, like in consecutive years. It just exploded. Part of it was there was not a significant dropout rate, and I think that the Catholic grade schools that were in the area saw that things were going well, and so more kids stayed, I think.
So what's the difference between, and I know you're going to be very humble when you answer this and everything, but what's the difference between your approach and maybe somebody else that it didn't work out for? What did you do to foster that? Sorry if that's a loaded question, but
no, my first thought is blind dumb luck. I was talking with somebody. Actually, I was talking with a band parent from back in the '80s at the football game the other night. His name is Joe Shute, wonderful band parent, and we both were talking about the old times. He introduced me to Disney and golf, and so I'm forever in his debt. But he was talking about where he is now, and that he wouldn't go back. And I said I'd had the same conversation with people who said they'd go back to high school in a heartbeat, or they'd go back to college in a heartbeat. And my answer was I had fun in both of those places, and there were exciting times and stuff. But if part of the deal was going back and not being able to walk the exact same path, I wouldn't go back. Because I don't think that I could be this lucky 2 times in a row.
Well, and if I can interject, so I think, because I've heard you say that a number of times, in different interviews, that you think it's some luck, and I'm sure that that's part of it. I would think that luck has something to do with you starting that path of success, but sustaining it for as many years as you have has to be more than luck. So what do you think has helped you to sustain the level of success you've had here at Marian for 30 years?
I don't know that I can find that answer. I can describe myself. I'm stubborn. I'm absolutely bone stubborn. It runs in my family. My dad was stubborn. My son is stubborn. You can look me right in the eye and say, "This is what," and give me all and I'm just going to look you in the eye and go, this is where I'm going. And that's I've always been that, and so I don't give up very easily. If we're going to move some way, we're going to move some way, and if it means I have to push everybody across the room to get there, then we'll do that. I love band. I guess that a lot of guys could say that. I just love band, and I can't say that anybody else doesn't. I just know that I do.
What do you love about the band? And let's talk to high school Greg Bimm, and let's talk to college Greg Bimm, and let's talk to present Greg Bimm. What has your love for it changed in any reasons? For me, and I'm sure for you too, it was this group of other weirdos like me that I could be a part of. It was hearing as a 14 to 18-year-old that there's strength and beauty, and we can express ourselves through this. I mean, what is it?
The high school Greg Bimm was in love with band because of my background, my family background, but also the band situation at LaSalle, Peru was one where we really thought that we were capable of anything. Like there were no limits to what we could do. If we were going to march a parade, we would be as good or better than anybody else that ever marched a parade. If we were going to play the finale from the Shostakovich Fifth Symphony, we would play it better than anybody else has ever played it. Now part of that's a childlike sort of view, but it was a depth of pride that permeated that place back in the band room at LP. What's funny is I remember going back for a reunion oh, it's a long time ago, but we'd still been out for 25 years or so. I got out of the car with my horn, and I immediately felt, as I stepped out onto the curb, I immediately felt that this is going to be the best alumni band that has ever been. This will be the best one that's ever been anywhere. Yeah, which is, I'm old enough to know that, there ain't no such thing as that singularity. There's some things to look at, but in my heart, I still had this joy that said, And then immediately I turned and I saw a girl named Faye Meany, who was our one of our two first clarinet players, and immediately gave her a hard time, just like always. She's a psychologist now and always has been brilliant, but I just gave her crap right away. So I love the way that it felt. I love the challenge. I love the way that it felt to play in the group. I love the music, just the way that the music played together and the emotion that it touched. And that has stayed with me all the time. And I think I probably love band more now than then because it's tempered through all of the experiences. When I hear a beautiful band sound that plays like the perfect phrase, the phrase that moves exactly at the pace that it should, in exactly the shape that it should, so it's like as perfect as you can imagine. When you hear that, or when I hear that now, I think I have a deeper appreciation. In high school I might go, oh, that sounds really cool. Now it's like you're touching the face of God or something like that.
How do you, as a director, develop the sense to create that, or to decide what you want? And when you say the perfect phrase, the way it moves, the shape of it, obviously that can be a pretty personal decision for a conductor. How do you come to those decisions with major pieces of music? I'm just truthful to me. Obviously, I spent a lot of time listening to masters. Whether it's when we did Till 2 years ago, I listened to Chicago and Sir George. It's like, okay, well, that's an obvious choice. But I'll listen to, the Joliet Band, or Ravelli has all kinds of things posted now. Well, he doesn't, but there are postings of great Ravelli recordings from back in the day, and I have a bunch of Harry Bejan recordings, and so I'll listen to any of those kind of things. Now that I start mentioning names, I'm going like I'm forgetting these people. But you get the idea. There's no limit to who I'll listen to see perceptions. But the real truth for me is I'm truthful to myself, which can be a difficult thing at our place in the food chain. Is the way I probably need to say that. And it's going to take me a minute to explain. As a high school band director, we put things together and we play in critiqued situations, whether it's a contest or a festival. We're always getting feedback from college guys or their high school guys or things like that who say, they'll give you some specific things that are objective, like the clarinet sound is too bright, or the trumpet's a little bit on the high side here, or whatever. But they'll also always say, well, this is a little too fast, or this is a little too slow, or I think that's a little bit too loud. And so you, as a high school band director, you get forced into this place where you have to make a choice of, am I doing this for the critique, or am I doing it for the music that burns inside me? And I'm old enough now where I do it for the music that burns inside me, and so it turns the tables to a degree. Like, I'll listen to a judge's tape, or let the kids listen to a judge's tape. I don't undercut the judges for the kids. Like, I won't say, this, but sometimes we played Masquerade last year, and one of the judges at one of the later performances that we did said that the tempo in one section was, I think, too fast, and she was wrong. In my opinion, I not for me. It needed to be this. I have at times played things too fast. I did another Persichetti a long time ago. Not that long ago. Steve Steele would remember. We played it at ISU, and I had just done a clinic out in Colorado, and had talked at length with a guy who had played the symphony under Persichetti, and he talked about how quick the tempos were. Just far above,
like the last movement I think is marked 144, and I think there's a plus there, but his tempos were in excess of that. And I just took that as like, oh, I've gotten to touch history. I'm going to, and so I think I did the fastest. Well, for me, it was the fastest performance of Persichetti that we've ever done, and it was awful. It was just not musical at all. It wasn't that it wasn't together or anything like that. It was just not. It wasn't musical at all. And so I've given over to I spent a lot of time thinking about pace and just how it feels. I remember. I can't remember who it was now. It was at the one of the ABA conventions. It might have been Mark Kelly from Bowling Green. I think it's Bowling Green, who conducted Banks and Brays, and it was perfect. I mean, it just set at the exact place that it needed to be, and I'm not talking just tempo, but just pace is a better word to use. And I just was in awe, and I talked to him afterwards, and I just said that was just wonderful. Banks and Brays is not the most challenging piece on the planet or anything like that, but he had just hit a home run with how he had made it come to life, and so a lot of those choices, I just be true to me now and let the cards fall how they're going to fall. So.
Sure. When you mentioned, obviously Granger and Persichetti, the music that you said burns inside you. What if you were to give some advice to some younger conductors? If given the opportunity, what are some pieces that you've got to learn, whether it's score studying or having the opportunity to perform? What are those pieces that speak most to you?
He's going to list all pet bands.
right. Eye of the Tiger.
The horse.
Somewhere here, I've got, I don't know, whatever the tune is that our color guard is doing their dance to. It's some Beyonce tune or somebody out there.
Single ladies.
I've mentioned Persichetti already, and for whatever reason, I've always had a love for Persichetti. Especially Masquerade and the symphony. Other pieces too. There's some wonderful, even some a couple of easier ones that are pretty good. They're great, but they're very accessible. Granger, obviously, Lincolnshire Posy is it's one of my favorites. The Hindemith Symphony. In the second movement, when he plays essentially there's a slow movement and a scherzo, and he plays the slow movement, then he plays a scherzo, and then he brings them back and puts them on top of each other. And when he does it, I just die. It's like, oh my God, how could this? How did that come out of somebody's mind? So a lot of those are just the pieces that everybody would list. So I don't know that I have my own definitive list that's different, but if I had to retire today, those are pieces that I would miss. I would miss never being able to do the Persichetti Symphony again, or the Hindemith Symphony, or Lincolnshire Posy.
Is there one that maybe you still have not done that you go, okay, I would like to hit this one at least once?
Child's Garden of Dreams. As a high school band director, you make choices. I didn't finish my story about that. I have to finish that story. I'll go back to that. But as a high school band director, you have to, as any band director, but especially as a school band director, you have to make choices based on who you have and what is in the realm of realism for you to be able to expect. Okay. In other words, it's good to challenge the kids. It's good to do something that's going to press them and make them rise to the occasion. But it's not good to put them in a place where they have no chance. You just can't do that. And Child's Garden of Dreams has, in my opinion, it just has a certain chemistry of soloist, things where there are going to be significant demands placed on an individual or a couple of individuals, whether it's trumpet range or an oboe or whatever. And I've never had the combination of all of those pieces in the place at the right time where I could say, yeah, I'd like, But of all the Maslanka stuff, that's
that's the one.
That just I've always been just fascinated by it.
My high school band director would say that one of his biggest challenges was programming music. He said
he's a master.
So I mean, but do you agree with that? That's probably
Absolutely finding the perfect piece that fits the kids, that's going to let them learn, that's going to be musically rewarding for everybody, and has exactly the right demands for each section. You could have a clarinet section that's crazy, and not have a strong oboe player. And so if you pick something that features this crazy good clarinet section, but also somewhere along the way this poor oboe player has to play 16 bars all by himself or by herself, and they got no chance of survival, you're gonna hurt that kid. And you're going to hurt the music too, but you got to think about the kids and what you're asking of them. And so, yes, programming is a huge part of the reaching for success. I have to go back to this, and maybe you can cut and paste this back. But I was talking about high school people and making musical choices as to whether you're being true to yourself or true to the festival and the comments, like, I'm going to make sure that I play this at the pace that so-and-so played it, or that the traditional pace, or I'm not so much about breaking with tradition, but just, there are choices in a lot of things that we play where you either choose, you can even put it in the context of being safe or going on the edge. And that's where this story comes from. We played, I left Hammersmith out. Oh my God, Hammersmith is on that list. We played Hammersmith at the last time we played at the National Concert Band Festival. And I love Hammersmith. And we don't get to play that too often. And people don't play it too often because it's a little bit esoteric, and it's a chunk to learn. We played it, and I thought we did a real nice job. And then we went down to the clinic with Bob Reynolds, Robert Reynolds. He came over before he started working with the kids, and he said, I really like Hammersmith. Would you mind if I just spent the whole time on Hammersmith? I was like, you're Reynolds. You do what you want to do. You're the guy. It's cool, And so I said, yeah, go ahead, knock yourself out. And he spent a long time working with the kids, just talking about a different way of approaching things, like kind of flipping it on its ear, where the slow stuff, instead of making it overly emotional, he took all the vibrato out and made it almost not dead, but very, very, very somber, like there was just no emotion, no life to it at all, sort of unfeeling. And then when you get to the fast stuff, all of a sudden that becomes, and in retrospect, it made all kinds of sense and stuff. But he had the kids just totally on fire. And then we were getting close to the end of the clinic. He had another 15 minutes left, whatever it takes to play. I think it's about 14 minutes. And he said, would you mind if we just played it? I was like, go ahead. And he just blew the doors off. I wanted so much to go back on the stage and have the audience hear that performance of Hammersmith, because it was on fire and it was so fast. And and it's not about how fast you can play. It was way faster than the choices that I made as we were getting ready to go is I have to make sure that I keep the kids in a place where they're going to succeed, where I know that we can put these things where they need to be. And he didn't have that demon wasn't sitting on his shoulder at all. So he could play it as fast or slow, whatever the truth was for his music, he could do. And so he just flew through the thing. And it was incredible, just magnificent. And that's when the thought really struck me. I said, I make choices based on these competitive, I hate to say it because people will jump on that, competitive or commentaried performances where you're going to get all this feedback from people, so that it tends to make choices more conservative. I have to play it a little bit safe here. I'll put things on the edge as much as anybody, but at that time, especially like for Hammersmith, I kept it in a place, a few clicks shy. Just okay, I can make sure that I can be absolutely secure that the kids are going to be able to be comfortable and musical and stuff with what we're doing. And I thought about that. I said, guys like that, the college guys never have to think about that. They don't get commentary from anybody. They just can play. No, they got players too. That doesn't hurt, but they can play at whatever pace they need, whatever volume they want to go for. They can, because people don't put a tape down, and say, here, this is my critique of what you just did. And so we live in sort of a different world, and I sort of gave that world up a little bit, which has probably been costly, but.
I mean, can you tell us about competition then? So, because I know it's very controversial, and Marian is very well known for concert band competitions, marching band competition. What's your philosophy with that? And if somebody comes at you with a very negative, view of that, what's your answer to that?
Well, I just saw a thing on Facebook the other night. A guy who's very successful. Made that as one of his opening salvos was, for those of you who are not interested in winning a trophy, and it's like the ultimate straw man argument. Like anybody who goes to a contest then is vile, evil, and doesn't care about music, kids, musicality, whatever it is. It's all about, winning a contest. And that's just couldn't be further from the truth. The people who are successful at using competition or performance in those places realize, I think, that competition is a tool. Just like recording. If you play into a recording and evaluate your own recording, it's a tool. Competition gives you feedback. Now, I've just said that there are times when, I'll know ahead of time that I'm not going to pay attention to, if they say something about this velocity or something like that, I may not watch it, or may not listen to them. But there's a gut check sort of thing with, maybe that's an overstatement. Let me rethink, so I don't just wander. No, when the kids are going to go in and play at a competition, they're going to play for critical judges. They're going to play for people who are evaluating everything that they're doing, from note to note, to phrase to pace, things that, all of those things. Are we in tune? Are we out of tune? All that stuff is going to come under a microscope. And so it sort of elevates their level of thinking. Like it elevates, they know that they're going to be closely examined. And so they will elevate themselves to that. It's also a reality check. I've seen some programs who never play in a competitive or evaluated situation make comments like they just think that they're the best thing since sliced bread, but they don't really play in a place where, you're being evaluated. The bottom line, though, is competition is simply, at its best state, a tool. We went to a contest last night. We don't have our whole show done, and the parts that is done is kind of messy. And my conversation, we've gone to 2 contests in the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, we finished first in our class, overall. And my comments to the kids were, let's evaluate how you did. Think about how you just played. Think about the one thing that you did that was exceptionally well done, that thing that you absolutely have control over. Now think about something that if you had another chance to go out and do it, you could do it better the next time. Like immediately, if you just had another shot, all you have to do is have a little more focus. Now think of something that's a short-term goal, that by Wednesday night when we have a rehearsal, you can have it fixed by Wednesday night. Now think about a long-term goal where over the next 2 weeks, it's going to take you 2 weeks to be able to knock this one out, but find the next goal. And we just went down that line. And we talked about the good things that went on with the performance and the bad things. It was pretty solid. Tempo was a little bit shaky. Some of the balances didn't come through. I was seeing a lot of eyes down, that kind of stuff. Last night, we didn't finish first in our class. And my comments were, think about what you did well. Think about what if you had one more. It was exactly the same questions. And I did that on purpose, to be real truthful, so that they know that it doesn't matter. the 1, 2, 3 thing, the trophy stuff, none of that stuff really matters at all. The only thing that matters is how are we going to grow through this whole process so that at the end of the day we have the best possible performance, something that we can be truly proud of and know that we have made the best art or the best attempt at art that we possibly could. And going to contests is just a tool in that process. And if you treat it like that, if you don't go to a contest to win the contest, it changes completely how the approach works. You know, if every time we went to a contest, my sole goal was to win the contest, then I would have to go back on what I just said. I could not live to my own pace of music. I couldn't sing the phrase that's true to me. I'd have to sing the phrase that I knew was going to be true to the judges. And so it's easy, if winning is the goal, then it's easy to be seduced into compromising the art.
Okay.
And so, but competition is an incredible tool. You know, it's a thing. It's something that has to be managed all the time, though. I saw some freshmen last night whose faces were a little bit long, and I intentionally didn't. I didn't approach it at all like it doesn't matter how we. I just went through the same things and evaluated the show. And I said, I think we're a lot better this week than we were last week. And you see them go. I said, you should be really proud of how you played and the progress we've made, how we dealt with the rain today. And so it all ended on a very positive note. And they were all chipper and having a good time on the bus on the way home. And so if contest is mishandled, it can be devastating. I have seen over the years incredible numbers of programs that have just died on the vine because they were just too competitive. They lived to win. When we won our first summer national contest, it was in 1984, and that was on a Saturday night in June. And I remember getting home, and on Sunday afternoon, I got a call from a person. I won't mention his name. He is now passed, but I got a call from a person, and he had a very successful marching program in a smaller school. And he called and said, well, now that you've won the big one, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm going to meet with some students tomorrow, and we do some lessons, and we're just going to
keep going,
keep teaching. What am I, you know? But I have seen people who are seeing programs run by directors who were all about the big trophy, and the big trophy is not the answer at all. You know, and so to a degree, the guys who are throwing the stones at the competition people, if they look at only that side, then their comments are, you know, if everybody who was trying to compete was compromising things, they'd have a lot to stand on. But I don't think most guys are. Honestly, I don't. You know, this would not be so friendly an activity like among the band directors. If we were all trying to beat each other, we'd have to hate each other. And you know, from what I've seen, most of us don't. So
well, so you have colleagues, you know, that you work closely with. Obviously, here at Marian, you know, you've got a team of people in the music department. Something that Don and I have talked about is, you know, having that friend and then those mentors that you can talk to, you know, about what's just going on in your classroom or, you know, decisions that you want to make musically. You're somebody that, to both of us and to a lot of teachers, you know, you're one of those guys that we would love to be able to, you know, pick your brain. Who is it that you call to say, you know, I need a little bit of help with phrasing in this, or I'm just having trouble. Who
I'm
do you
old.
talk to?
I'm old now, and so the guys that I.
This is going to get sad, isn't it?
No, not at all. I've always been a little bit backward with this kind of stuff. I don't do well on the phone. I don't like talking on the phone, actually. I mean, like I will, but I don't do well in those kind of situations. I'm always uncomfortable. My dad and I, you know, before he passed, I'd call and be talking to my mom, and she'd say, hey, talk to your dad. My dad get on, hey, how you doing? I'm fine. How you? I'm fine. Want to talk to your mom? Yeah, and that would be it. It was we have never been. I think I inherited that, and so I have never been one to be able to pick up the phone. I have been the fly on the wall a lot. Like I have stolen moments from anybody and everybody, and without it just following people around. I think my favorite story with that is with John Painter. He was guest conducting the IMEA All-State Band back. It was around 84, 83, 84, somewhere like that, because it was in Springfield. And one of the reasons they left Springfield was the room that they had for the honors band was this little bitty room with a low ceiling and only like one door on one side. It was awful. I was working for my high school band director, Chris Izo, who was executive secretary of IME at the time, and I was doing the equipment stuff, shuffling everything from here to there to here to there. And every chance I got, I would make sure that my path going from one place to another went by the door, and I would just stop and watch John Painter work. And what's funny is there were times when he would conduct where he would lean forward. You can his shoulders were a little bit forward, and he was intense and stuff. And he'd be working with the kids, and all of a sudden he'd just look over his right shoulder because the door was there, and he'd look over, and our eyes would meet, and then I'd kind of step out of the way, and then 20 minutes later, he'd be conducting, and he'd look over, and he'd see me look. I think he thought I was stalking him, because literally, I just was trying to absorb everything that I could, because if you watch someone like that, you can get a lot, and I think it was a lot of that kind of stuff. I have been a sponge every chance I get. I got to have breakfast. I got to be pretty close to Harry Bejan through ABA. Actually, my wife got to be really close to Harry Bejan because she gets along with everybody, and everybody loves her. She's just nuts. And so Harry just adored her. Yeah, I'm calling him Harry. That's funny. In my wife's context, he's Harry. So that's just, for me, it's like bow down, But I got to know him pretty well, and we got to have meals a few times, like he was at IMEA one year, and we had breakfast and stuff, and I would just listen to what he would say and how he would approach things, and it meant an awful lot. Even simple things like he once told me that his favorite time of making music was when he was at Cass Tech. No matter where else he'd been or who else he'd conducted, his favorite time was with those high school kids, and that meant a great deal. It's like, I'm a high school guy, I always have been, and looks like that's what that's what I've chosen always to be. I'm not, so I don't know that it has been a thing where I've actively pursued people. It's much more that, like on the phone, it's much more I've actively been a voyeur or something. And I've actively pursued them just watching them in their natural habitat, I think, and I listen a lot.
Well, let's talk about this. And so I'm in a new position now, and I'm looking for advice here. Where I used to be at Morris High School, and I was there for 5 years, and I was the band director, no assistant, anything like that. And I know you've had a number of assistants there, and most recently Bobby Lambert, who's left. I mean, tell me about working with Bobby. Especially.
I hate him.
You hate Bobby?
He left.
How can you believe this? I mean, but you and Bobby were very, very well known for working very well together and having, of course, great programs which are continuing today, obviously. Tell me about that.
We got along from the very beginning. I've been really, I keep saying lucky. I laugh now. I just tell people I'm really good at hiring. I'm really good at hiring, because my first hire was a guy named Bob Page, who is a wonderful human being and a good musician, good band director. He's down in Georgia now. When Bob left, I hired Mark Whitlock, and Mark is, he's a dude. He's really good. And when Mark left, I hired Bobby Lambert, and so I'm kind of like, I'm hitting home runs. And now Scott Oliver is our new guy, and he's great. I mean, he's we've just are continuing to march right on forward. Working with Bobby though was really a special treat. When he moved here, he and Alicia were just married. As a matter of fact, I called to offer him the job on the day of their wedding rehearsal. Like he got out of the rehearsal and answered the phone, talked to me, and then went out and told Alicia that he'd been offered the job at Marian, and she was not really thrilled at that time about coming back to Illinois, as I recall. So it's kind of a big moment for those guys. But our families have been incredibly close, and Bobby is an extraordinary human being. I mean, he is a kind, generous, thoughtful, all of the humble, all of the good things. It makes it just so easy to work with. There was never a pressure to be anything special or to do anything special. It was just a matter of two guys caring about what they do and working really hard together, so it made it a pleasure. And the fact that he's incredibly intelligent and hardworking and very talented, that didn't hurt either. But we got to be, over the course of time here, where we sort of thought exactly in the same patterns. We would finish each other's sentences, and I knew that part of my life got to be easier because I knew that if I dropped the ball, he wasn't going to. And I think he felt the same way, where there's a real comfort zone between the two of us, where we just really could count on each other. Sad to see him go, honestly. It's his job at Wando's a great band, and it's a really good fit. It's closer to home, so it's like everything that's the perfect thing, and it is the right time for him to be able to do that. So.
Well, and let me ask you this too. So you mentioned family. I've been teaching 8 years now. My wife and I we have 3 children. We have a 5-year-old, we have a 3-year-old, and we have a 4-month-old. And if this is too personal, forgive me, you don't have to answer. But for you, with this position and with anything, has that ever taken a toll on your family? And how have you dealt with that? Because obviously you've got to spend a lot of time here. My high school band director, it was the same thing with him. He was here a lot. But what advice do you have for people trying to do both of those things?
You have to, as a pair, you have to, whether you talk about it or whether it's just an understanding, you have to kind of understand the mechanics, understand what's there. Again, I'm a lucky dude. Connie has always just gotten it. She has seen, I'm obsessed. I've always been obsessed, and Connie knew that from the beginning, and it's just been a part of who we are. Here we are. I'm working 100-hour weeks right now, maybe more than that. A lot of hours going on, and they have been since writing season and then into fall season. It's a little bit insanity. And Connie just gets it. Tonight, today I'm home. I was here yesterday for 18 hours. Went home, slept, got up. My grandson stayed with us. We messed around a little bit, and then I said, "Oh, by the way, Connie, I have to go back to school this afternoon for an hour and a half, whatever." Said, "Oh, okay." And that has been her approach to my obsession for 36 years, 1 year less than Marian now. So, and that's just been how we understand one another. If there's a toll, it hasn't taken a toll on our relationship. It hasn't taken a toll on our bond. It hasn't taken a toll on our kids. If there's a toll that has been paid, it probably was paid by Connie. You know what I mean? Like, for every minute that I'm here, it's a minute that I'm not there. And so in the earlier days, especially when the kids were little and stuff, I think it's a balancing act, and Connie carried a pretty big chunk of that balance, I think. I hate to say it that way because I don't want to set people up
for
but Connie is magical. I had a girlfriend before I met Connie. When I was first teaching, I had a girlfriend, and we were serious, and she's at the end of my first year teaching, she said, "Man, you work a lot of hours." She said, "I know that your first year teaching is really demanding. How long do you think you're going to have to continue to work these kind of hours?" And I said, "Well, I'm 22, and I plan to teach till I'm 70, so about another 50 years." We broke up shortly after that, and honestly, it was a smart breakup. She's a nice girl and stuff, and smart and all that kind of stuff. But we would have never been able to be okay together because she didn't have the same kind of understanding and humanity. I shouldn't say humanity. Yeah, probably humanity that Connie has. Connie is just, she is something truly special.
Well, I mean, let's talk further about this too. So you've got a grandson now, right?
I do, little Charlie.
Okay, so talking again to kind of two younger directors here, and what kind of music teacher would you want Charlie to have? What kind of ideals besides
just
yourself?
Like right? Grandpa. I think the big thing for me is if the person has the kids at the top of the list, like the kids are the most important thing. That's the single most important thing, and then somebody who loves it as much as I do. I think anything less, but those two things go hand in hand. I mean, like, I love band music. I love great music. I mean, like, I'll slice and dice and spend the extra hours, whatever the extra little bit of pain that the director needs to go through. I'll happily do that if it's going to make the music better. A couple more hours, it's worth it if the phrase is beautiful. However, the kids still need to be at the center of that. Like, no kid gets compromised for the sake of the music. That's a very razor's edge you have to walk, because you can fall on either side. If you don't pay attention to it, you could hurt kids in the process of getting the music to be good, and that's no good, because that ruins the value. It ruins the soul of the art. If you've hurt somebody in the process, I mean, like, truly hurt them. On the other side, though, you can easily fall to the other side of the razor's edge and not push hard enough to make the music good, and that's also that's not valuable anymore. So you have to walk this really thin edge of keeping the kids right at the center, but also knowing that sometimes that means you have to push them. Sometimes that means you have to say, no, we're going to do it one more time. I know your chops are tired. We're going to do it again. Yes, I know you'd like to go to the movie with your best friend, but our rehearsal is tonight, and you're going to be at our rehearsal. Those kind of, there seem to be kind of obvious demands, I guess, in how I said it, but you have to stay in the center of that so that the kids are always still the prime directive, to allude to Star Trek.
All right. Well, this has been phenomenal, just sitting with you here. We really want to thank you for your time here today. All of that was fluff, because this leads to our most important question here. Tell us about Taco John's, Greg.
Okay, I'll make it as fast as I can. Taco John's had a restaurant. There was a Taco John's in Macomb, Illinois, when I met Connie.
We're getting a sponsor from Taco John's.
Yeah, we should. And there's a Taco John's mug up there somewhere. I'm sure there is one. I don't see it. Yeah, but it's the blue one in there behind the thing. Anyway, Taco John's was in Macomb, and Connie and I ate there all the time during the time that I was doing graduate work, and so it has just been a thing for us for all these years. We still drive down to Bradley every few weeks. We'll drive down and have Taco John's, because that's the closest one. We did a trip with the kids when they were little. We went out to the Black Hills, and Taco John's home office, it started in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And so as you get closer to the west, or you get closer to Cheyenne, there are more and more Taco John's billboards and Taco John's commercials and stuff. And so we just, on a whim, we decided that we were going to just visit every Taco John's we could find. And so,
wasn't there a Simpsons episode where Homer followed around the rib wedge? Right?
It could have been. And so in 9 days, we went to 17 Taco John's. And when we got back, Connie made a map and called it the Great Taco John's Tour. And actually, we'd go in and get something, but we'd also bring the staff out and take a picture with the staff. So we had pictures. There was one that we got to that we didn't eat there because it wasn't open yet. It was early in the morning. We were traveling, and so she took a picture of me sitting on the curb looking at my watch because it wasn't open yet. But we stopped at 17 Taco John's. We took a picture of the little cartoon Taco John as the extra face for the what's that? The big monument they have out there with the 4 presidents.
Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore. Yeah, Taco John became the next face on Mount Rushmore. So we're standing at the visitors center, and Connie is holding Taco John, and I'm telling her a little higher, and trying to get a picture so that it was, and people are just staring at us, looking like, "What are you doing?" So, but anyway, Taco John's has played a role for us forever. If you look on the door there, that's
Taco John's welcomes Greg Bimm.
That is from Whitewater, Wisconsin, 1989. And
this is his most passionate
Maybe
answer.
It's 88. I think it's 1988. We had gone up for Summer Nationals, and there was a Taco John's right in the corner in Whitewater. And Mike Boo had gotten to them during the course of the week, right before we went up there, and made a deal with them to put that on the sign. So as we went, all of the band buses went by that sign. So I'm still I still owe Mike Boo for that one.
Well, we want to say thank you very much. Again, it's a fangirl moment for me, but I've over the years seen your bands, heard your bands, watched you teach, and I honestly can't think of anybody better at doing what it is that we're trying to do. So thank you very much for all you do and for taking an hour today to talk to us.
This puts a lot more value to our band director action figures with BOA playset that we have at home. You squeeze their legs and they conduct in 2/4. That's all. So yeah, we really thank you for giving up a Sunday here, and
it's a pleasure.
This certainly helps us. We hope it helps some other people there, and we wish you and your students luck with a great season and a great school year.
We're having fun so far, except for the rain.
Yeah. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, guys.